This is Leisha from Caught by Design. Today I'm going to show you how to make a lap book using ordinary file folders. I made this lap book several years ago as a summer review activity for my preschool, early elementary age Bible class students. The inspiration for it came from Rhonda Duvall of handsonbibleteacher.com. If you're a Bible class teacher and you haven't heard of Rhonda before, you really need to go check out her site. She is so imaginative, and she's got a ton of resources to share that help make Bible lessons really come alive for the kiddos. I've put a link in the notes to her post where I first saw a lap book similar to this. So one of the best things about this project is that you can tailor it to suit your needs. This one has a total of 26 pages. It's 13 pages front and back. We used it for an entire summer where we did 2 lessons a week for 13 weeks. This one is also wide. It's the full width of a file folder, but you could easily cut it in half and make more pages, less pages, whatever you need. The first thing I'm going to do is show you how to put the base of the book together, and then I'll flip through the entire book and give you a little more detail on each of the pages. So to create the book, you will need 4 manila file folders with the 3rd cut tabs. That's a tab on the left, right, and middle. A scoring tool, something like a bone folder or a stylus. A paper trimmer or an X-Acto knife with a straight edge, some clear packing tape, scissors, and optionally some painter's tape. I find that to be really helpful, but you don't have to have it. So we're going to get my file folders here, and the first thing we're going to do is to create a couple of the page folds. If you'll turn your folder over to where the tab here is at the lower right and the fold is at the left. Now this one, because I'm using the tab on the right, I want to flip it over like this. You want your tab on the top and you want your fold here on the left. And we're going to fold this over to where the top edge here meets the fold and this side is even. So if I just fold it like that, as close as possible. Now it's tag board, so it kind of wants to move around, or I guess resist really your folding. So you have to kind of really hold it in place for that first one. And then just burnish it down so you get a sharp crease. And that's pretty good. Sometimes they'll be a little crooked, but that's pretty good. All right, then you're going to use this straight edge that you just created as the guide for scoring the next part. So I'm just going to take my scoring tool and go right down the edge here. I'm going to fold that over and fold it back on itself again. Try my best to keep it really good and straight. A lot of times as you keep folding and scoring, it'll slowly start to get a little out of line. A little bit's not too bad, but you want it as neat as possible. And then I'm going to burnish that down. Now you'll see that this last page is a little short. Don't worry about that, because once I put all the file folders together, it'll take care of that. Okay, so once we've got those first couple of folds made, let's straighten this edge out. Here's our first edge, and we're going to use that last fold, the piece that was smaller. And you'll see that if you open another file folder, they fit together somewhat like a puzzle. And we're going to tape those 2 file folders together. Now, if you're working by yourself, it can be a little tricky to hold those file folders in place while you put the packing tape on them. So that's where the painter's tape comes in handy. I'm going to put a strip of painter's tape right here and another piece right here. And that will keep them together while I put the packing tape on. So I've got the painter's tape on. I'm just going to flip it over. And then I want a piece of packing tape. Sorry for that. I know it makes a lot of noise. That's a little bit longer than the width of the folder. Now, once you stick that packing tape down, it's there to stay. And if you try to remove it, it's going to rip off part of the file folder. So you want to try to get it as smooth as possible the first time. So I'm just going to tape that down. And then come over to the other side. Take off the packing tape. And fold that over to create a nice edge there. And that way, where that little cutout of the folder is, you'll still have a nice edge and less wear and tear on the edges of the lap book. All right, now I'm going to take another piece of packing tape that's just a little bit shorter here. You could make it longer and wrap it around a second time, but I'm just going to put this here. And I got a little air bubble in that one. See, and once you stick it, it is stuck. I'll just kind of straighten that out. A little bit of fingernails. Okay, then I'm going to try to get this as smooth as possible. And you could wrap it around if you want, but I'm just going to take and trim that off. Smooth out any air bubbles. Now I'm just going to continue folding and taping until I have all 4 file folders taped together. Okay, now once you have your book completed, depending on how many pages you wanted, you're probably going to have some file folder left over. I, in fact, had about a half of a file folder left over for mine. So just take that and trim it off with a paper cutter or an X-Acto knife. Just whatever to get it nice and even. And I just used those leftover file folders. I cut them down to a sheet this size and used them when we had visitors. And that way the visitor could just do their one page that we did that day and take it home with them, because they wouldn't be doing a whole book. So when the lap book is finished, it's time to get creative. For ours, I cut pieces of construction paper. The smaller pieces of construction paper are usually 9 by 12. So I first trimmed it to 11.5, and then I cut it in half lengthwise so that it was 4.5 by 11.5. And that will fit on all of the pages except the very first one. It's a little smaller because it has that tab. Now we just put a cover sheet on ours, a little print and cut, and then this piece that's on the back side here had to be trimmed just a little narrower. I didn't glue the construction paper in there. The kids just did their activity each week on the construction paper, and then we glued the whole sheet down into the book when they were finished. And they were really excited to watch the book take shape over the course of the summer. The parents liked it because it was something that they could use to review with the kids, but it didn't take up a lot of space. And it's probably the most ambitious silhouette project I ever undertook, a single project, because there were so many print and cuts in it, but the finished product was so worth it. And it's something I get asked about almost every time I show a sample of it, and it just really turned out nicely, I think. Now, most of the pages were, like I said, print and cuts, and I used graphics from a variety of sources, coloring pages, activity sheets, clip art I found on the internet, resources from places like I mentioned before, handsonbibleteacher.com. And there's also a site called BibleFunForKids.com. That site was created by Deb Jackson, and it is another fantastic resource for Bible teachers. And so here we just had the cover. This was a print and cut, a fill in the blank. Here I used some sticker paper to create the hearts that they put on Saul, David, or Solomon. I used my knife tool to create this for the divided kingdom. More print and cuts here. This is a print and cut with printable gold foil. These were their memory verses. I just typed it out on a page in Silhouette Studio, made rectangles around it, filled the rectangles with color. Again, more print and cuts. I was able to print this red sheet out on my home printer, left a space here where they just could glue in the word spoke and pictures of the prophets. This one was fun with Elijah and the ravens, with this little slider here, and I'll probably do another tutorial later on how I made that. They, of course, colored it, and then we made the little slider so the ravens could come down and feed Elijah. This one, they colored the stones. We put little mini craft sticks on there and then strips of tissue paper for the water and the flames. Another memory verse, a story I found in some images on the internet of the story of Elijah and Elisha. This was just jars that they colored. I had the little arrow and the text printed out. This is one of Deb Jackson's lapbook activities. Craft sticks around pictures of the bed, the chair, and the lamp. And this was a book that I found on the internet. I believe it comes from the Beginner's Bible. This is another Deb Jackson activity where they can ask the question and then lift the flap, and there's the answer. They were supposed to write in the answer themselves, but you wouldn't have to write in the answer. You could just ask them the questions and have them draw a picture or something. Another piece printed on the printer with something that they just glued down. This was a map, and then we had Judah as another piece that they stuck on there with a pop dot. Joash repairs the temple. I used more printable gold foil for the coins. This story I found, and it was cut into squares, and then they had to rearrange it and put it in order. They just got a bag of the little pieces. More coloring that they glued into their book. Another memory verse. This one was fun. I found all the graphics in one lesson on the internet and then just printed this out on the construction paper. This was a piece of construction paper that I did have to trim it some, but it's closer to a full sheet. Left spaces in here where they could glue down the images of the people in the boat and the sailors. And then we made the whale that had a movable jaw, and he could spit out Jonah onto the dry land. Just to get over there to the dry land. Yeah, there we go. This was sticker paper for the locusts, little plastic wedding rings for Hosea. This was another activity page I found, and then we just had the little squares that they were already cut out, and then they were supposed to fill it in to complete the Bible verse. Another just print and cut on something printed on the printer, and then another print and cut that they just glued down. You could use a lap book for all kinds of things. You could use it for a nature study or a sketch journal or something to practice their multiplication, a photo album, just whatever you can imagine. It's a lot of fun. The kids like it. It allows them to have some creativity, but also have it all in one nice little compact book. This one will fold out or it will fold up. And it's kind of fun because you can just flip the pages and then continue flipping them over like that and come back to the beginning. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial and that you'll try making a lap book for some of your own classes or maybe as an activity with your kids or your grandkids. If you have any questions, just leave me a comment and I'll try to help. And if you've got some ideas to share, I'd love to hear those too. Thanks for watching.